This is my 2024 horrendous football predictions. So let's start in the NFC. Starting in the NFC North, I have Detroit winning. No doubt there. I think they're the best team. I'm not just saying that because I'm a Lions fan. I think that Green Bay, as I mentioned last week, Green Bay will make a run at the division, but I think Green Bay is more of an 11-win team. Detroit's more of a 13-win team. Um, so I have Detroit coming out on top. NFC East, I have the Dallas Cowboys. Um, I think that Dak Prescott will continue to put together an MVP type season like he has the last few years. I think that that offense and the defense will finally click, and I think they will win the NFC East. I think it'll be a close race, but I think they will be able to squeak it out in the end. NFC West, I have the San Francisco 49ers. Um, Not really much explanation needed here. San Francisco's been the best team in the NFC for the last few years, and I just don't see uh, enough drama on there this season to warrant picking somebody else over them. I also don't see any other challengers in that division to dethrone the Rams off of the NFC West throne. Heading down south. Now, I know a lot of people are going to pick the Falcons because they added Kirk Cousins. I am staying with Tampa Bay. I love what Baker Mayfield has done over the last few years. I think that, last year wasn't just a fluke. I think, he got a contract this offseason, a very well deserved contract. He still has all his weapons there. Mike Williams is going to put up 1,000 yards regardless of, how many injuries he goes through. Still has some good weapons over there. They finally have a decent running back. So I think in that division where really anything can happen, I have Tampa Bay coming out on top there. And then my wild cards, this was actually really tough because there are five teams I think that could compete for the wild card. I have Philly making it in. I see a lot of people predicting Philly to fall out. I don't think that their I don't think their offense regressed at all. Sure, they had a bad end to the season last year, but I don't think they regressed enough to warrant them falling out of the playoffs. Do I think they're going to win the division? No, I don't think they're going to win the division. But um, I do think that they have enough talent and skill. They added Saquon Barkley in the offseason. I think that's a huge addition for them. Um, I think Philly makes it into the wild card. I think the Rams sneak back into the wild card. Um, I think that Matthew Stafford, leads this team back like he did last year. And I think that they would be a division winner if they didn't play in the same division as San Francisco. And then finally, I have the Green Bay Packers, as I mentioned, 11-win team. That's just I can't reasonably leave them out of the playoffs after I said they're going to have 11 wins this year. So that's my three wild cards. The other two teams I could have thrown in there were Chicago and Atlanta. I do think those teams will hover around 8 or 9 wins this year, but I don't think it's going to be enough to get in. I think that these top seven teams in the NFC are very very good. Um, so that's my NFC. Just again, Detroit, Tampa Bay, Dallas, San Francisco as your division winners, and then the Rams, Eagles, and Packers as your wild cards. Flipping over to the AFC, AFC North, I have the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson coming off an MVP season. You added Derrick Henry as if Lamar Jackson wasn't scary enough. Um, I don't really care who the weapons are over in Baltimore because Lamar Jackson will find a way to use them. Mark Andrews is back healthy again. So, all that being said, I have Baltimore winning that division. AFC South, I have Houston coming out of the division. Houston, I think, is one of those teams that's only going to get better. They're kind of on the same trajectory right now as the Lions. They ended with the second overall pick 2 years ago, and last year they completely turned things around with C.J. Stroud. Managed to make it to the playoffs, and I think that they'll make it back again this year. AFC West, again, not really much explanation I need here. Kansas City, I don't see anyone in that division really threatening those. Also, I can't pick against Kansas City right now to win that division. I think that back-to-back Super Bowls. I have to give it to them, you know? And then the AFC East, I know I'm going to catch a lot of flack for this one. I have Buffalo winning that division. I know some people will say the Jets, other people will say the Dolphins. I think it's Buffalo's division to lose. I'm a little concerned about um, the secondary with Buffalo and the defense in general getting a little bit weaker. But I feel like Josh Allen is still Josh Allen, and he will continue to work with that. I liked Keon Jackson, the receiver they got in the draft, um, or Keon Coleman, the receiver they got in the draft. I like him, and I feel like it's their division to lose. I don't see Miami taking that from them, and I don't see the Jets taking that from them. And then who do I have in wild card? This is where things get really interesting. Number one, I have the Bengals. Again, I think they're kind of like the Rams. I think they would be a division winner if they didn't play in the same division as Baltimore. That being said, I do think the AFC North is the toughest division in football. You have four teams there who are all very good, and so I think you have Baltimore and Cincy coming out of there. Um, I have the Chargers making the playoffs this year. I think Jim Harbaugh turns things around. I think Justin Herbert actually having a competent head coach will be a breath of fresh air. I think they're going to run the ball a lot. And I like what they've done with that secondary and that defense, kind of revamping it there. And everywhere that Jim Harbaugh has gone, that has been a losing program the year before, has turned itself to a winning program. I think that'll be enough to make it into the playoffs. And then my last team I have is the Indianapolis Colts. They were one play away from making the playoffs last year, just missed out. I think that having a full season of Anthony Richardson, barring he stays healthy, will be a very good thing for this Colts team. They're young, and I think that Anthony Richardson can cement himself as a top 15 quarterback in this league by the end of the season if he plays like he can. It's all a matter of staying healthy for him. So if Anthony Richardson stays healthy, I have the Indianapolis Colts sliding into the AFC playoffs. I also had Pittsburgh and Miami. I have just missing the playoffs. Miami, I think, is one of those teams that um, they lost a couple key pieces. They've had a lot of injuries over the last few years. I'm still not confident in Tua's ability to lead that team. Um, so for that reason, I have Miami missing, and then Pittsburgh. I know will have a winning record because they do every year, but I think they just missed out in the playoffs, similar to the Falcons and the Bears in the NFC. So AFC recap: Baltimore, Houston, Buffalo, Kansas City winning the divisions, and then Cincinnati, Indianapolis, and the Chargers as your wild cards. Conference championships. Now the NFC is probably not a shock to a lot of people, but my AFC is where things get a little spicy. Uh, NFC, I have Detroit versus San Francisco. Rematch of last year, except this year I have it in Detroit. Um, I think that in the rematch, um, I think we get the best of San Francisco. I think we close the door this time instead of letting them come back in the game. And so I have Detroit advancing to the Super Bowl this year. In the AFC, I have Kansas City making it again to the conference championship. They've made it to like 6 or 7 straight conference championships, some absurd amount. Um, I have them going again because it's really hard for me to not look at what Kansas City has done and see that they're doing something special there. And joining Kansas City, I have the Cincinnati Bengals. I think Joe Burrow has a breakout season this year. I think he has a fantastic season now that he's fully healthy, um, now that he has weapons around him, and an actually decent offensive line. Um, so I have him leading the Bengals back to the conference championship game. And in this one, I have the Bengals knocking off Kansas City. I have the Bengals sending Kansas City packing and advancing to the Super Bowl, which I have dubbed the Battle of the Cats. Detroit Lions, Cincinnati Bengals, Battle of the Cats. And I wouldn't be a Lions fan if I didn't have the Lions winning. I genuinely believe in this team, in this roster. Um, do I have questions about this roster? Yes. I don't think there's a NFL fan that doesn't have questions about their team. But I do believe that this team is being built the right way in Detroit. And I think, just missing out on the conference championship and a trip to the Super Bowl last year was huge for this team. I think they're going to take that momentum, carry it into this year, and carry it all the way, defeating Joe Burrow in a very, very exciting Super Bowl matchup.